In today's video, we're going to talk about loops. Loops are programming elements that repeat a code block, basically a portion of the code, a set number of times until the desired process is complete, right? Don't be scared by the definition. It's actually very easy. The main two types of loops are while loops and for loops, right? And in today's video, we're going to discuss them. Let me whisper something to you. For loops are a bit more important and more practical. Like a lot of people prefer to use for loops instead of while loops, but it is important to learn them both. Let's get started. Okay, what is a while loop and how can we have a while loop in Python? It's actually very easy. There is a saying, if you're doing something in Python and it's hard, you're doing it wrong. This is how easy Python is supposed to be. So let's define a while loop. How do we do that? We just go while. By the way, I already created this file name. It's loops.py, and I saved it and everything so that I won't waste your time. So while, and a condition goes here, right? It could be any conditions. We did talk about booleans, right? So this condition is a boolean. So if the condition is true, it goes inside the while loop. If not, then it won't. So if any condition and then column, then come back, we tab in, we indent 4 spaces, and then whatever you write in here, right, is inside the while loop. And then if you want to go out, you just go back. As easy as that. Now, let's see an example here. A very simple example can be this. So let's say we go n equals 10, right? And then here we go while n is greater than 10, then print n and n equals n minus 1, right? What do you think will happen if I run this? Let's see. If I run this, it runs and it does nothing. Strange, right? Why? Let's see. N equals 10. It goes to the next line and it says while n greater than or equal to 10. Is that correct? No. N is not greater than 10. N is equal to 10. So this condition is not true. So it doesn't do anything. It doesn't even go inside the loop, right? So let's make a change here and say while n is greater than or equal to 5, print n and decrement n. And let's see what happens now. If I do that, it says 10. I have it on the debug mode, so forget about it. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5, right? Which is true. I had it on the debug mode so that I could show you something. Like you can easily put your program in debug mode and it makes you understand what's going on. Just click here on the side, right? And you can see the red dot in here. And then instead of just running the code, you go debug Python file, right? If you do that, then you will give this cool bar up top with different options. So this in here is basically just continue. It runs the whole thing. This is stepping over. So if you want to skip a line, but what we're dealing with here is this guy in here, right? Which step into the function or, well, different lines, right? See what happens. And then you see here, we have the local variables here and it says n equals 10 because it executed the first line and I was like, okay, n is 10. Let's see what happens next. I go to the next line. The condition was true. 10 is greater than or equal to 5. So it was true. So it goes here, right? And now let's see what happens after I run this. Print n, and then you can see down here that it printed 10, right? And then the next line, and then equals n minus 1. So we expect n to be 9, and you can see that it updates here. Now you have the new value. And now you're here. Is 9 greater than or equal to 5? Yes. So I expect it to go to the while loop. I do that. It goes in. It prints n. You can see here 9, and then decrement n. So the new value is 8, right? And you see it's updated here. Just as simple as that. So while the condition is true, it goes inside, and as soon as the condition is not true anymore, it jumps out. Interesting. Let's just run the whole thing, and then like you can obviously stop debugging it. That's okay too. But how can I break something? Like how can I break? Let me clear this in here. We can do something interesting here. We keep decrementing n. So we get 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5, right? Here it can go if n equals, I don't know, let's say 7, then break. Interesting, right? So what I'm telling it to do is that when you run in the code and you decrement n, if you saw n equals 7, then break, it means jump out of the while loop, right? And if I run this now, you see it says 10, 9, 8. And when it's 7, it doesn't go back in there, right? It just breaks, just like that. So this is about the while loops, right? Nothing too special about that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the for loop. That's more important. So the while loop, as you see here, it's based on a condition, and while that condition is true, it does the same thing, right? It's mostly used for the cases that you don't exactly know how many times you want to do something, right? Let's say you have a sensor and you're measuring the temperature, and you're saying, while the temperature is below 25 degrees, turn the furnace on, keep it on, and as soon as it hits 25 degrees, then you can turn the furnace off, right? Something like that. The other thing that we can do is for loops, right? For loops, they actually repeat a block of code, right, for a certain amount of times. Let's see how that works. I go for I or any variable name, right? I is like one of the most common ones, but like you can have anything. In range 10, right? You want to somehow tell it how many times, right? I'm saying 10 times, right? In range 10, and then we indent 4 spaces, just like always. And then we go print pi. And let's see what happens now. If I run this, it says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9. Remember, in Python, when I say range 10, just like if you remember from the last video when we're talking about random numbers, the lower limit is included, but the upper limit is excluded, right? So range 10 is 0 to 9, and it just prints 9, right? What else can we do here? Let's think about it a bit. We can obviously have the same break statement here. We can go if I equals 7, or let's say go 5 this time, then break. It jumps out of the loop, right? And let's see, if I run this, it says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That makes sense. Because you have the 5 here. Like if I put the print statement, this is a good example of it actually. If I put the print statement down here, right? So if it's 5, break. So I don't really expect it to print 5 because it should exit the loop here, right? Let's see what happens. So if I clear this and run this thing again, true, right? It just goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 because 5 breaks the loop. As simple as that. The other thing that you can do to give it a range is to use something that we call a list, right? So let's say we can go list. We are defining the list here. So to define a list in Python, it's a set. Like you want to choose something from a set, right? You just use the square brackets, right? And then your list can be anything. It can be set of integers, strings, booleans, whatever you want, right? Doesn't matter. A combination of those. So I'm just gonna go to I don't know, 6 um hello. See, it's a combination of anything, everything. 3.4, right? And here I can just go for, and as I said, like this can be anything. So I'm just gonna go for uh, item, and instead of range, I'm gonna go in my list, right? Print item. So what I expect to see is to see every single of these elements, these 4 elements printed out. Let's see what happens here. If I do this, it says 2, 6, hello, 3.4. So all the elements are printed out. Uh, you can obviously have nested loops, right? Loops inside each other, which is a cool concept, right? Where you can go for I um, in range, let's say 2, for example. Don't forget, you have to indent everything if you want them to be, you know, nested into each other. So what happens here is that it sets I to 0 for the first time and then prints the whole list, right? And then it sets I to 1 and then does the same thing. So I expect to see this list printed out twice. Interesting. Well, let's see what happens. So if we run this, it says 2, 6, hello, 3.4, and again 2, 6, hello, 3.4. Very interesting. That is the concept of loops in Python. And I think at this point, we've talked about all the main concepts of programming in Python. And what remains for us to do is to actually practice them. So subscribe for the next videos. And in the next videos, I'm just going to do a lot of examples so that we can practice together. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye. Have a good one.